What is cooking, my dude?
Not much is cooking. There's a lot of things going on in the real estate market. I'm sure you're seeing all kinds. Well, you're in Texas, so there's all kinds of things going on in your world. Let's actually talk about that for a second. What is the what is going on in your neck? What you're outside of Austin. What's going on from your point of view in the Austin market? You are outside of Austin, aren't you?
Um, yes, I'm west of Austin, out towards the hill country and lake. Um, and I mean it's you know I personally just try to keep my head down and keep busy and focus on what I can control. So market goes up, market goes down. I'm you know still doing my thing. Definitely seeing seems like there's a good amount of properties on the market, but things still seem to be turning over relatively decently. Just kind of like keeping my just from like what I see locally, like in my neighborhood. I'm not deep in the numbers every day like yourself, but
Yeah, and I'm forced to be in the numbers. So it's not that I'm
right,
really focusing on the numbers. I think that the market goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways. Sometimes it's in your favor, sometimes it's not. In my experience, it was really, really hard in a flat market when I got into the real estate business. When things just weren't, it was just, it was like someone just died on an operating bed. It was like,
right,
uh, following that, I thought it was really hard in an up market because homes were selling like that and you had lower inventory. Conversely, I think it's hard in a buyer's market because you have so much inventory and you have fewer buyers. So I don't think there's I don't think that there is a good, bad, or indifferent market. I think that based on the numbers, so one of the things I share with agents is numbers have no meaning. You have a lot of real estate agents, you have a lot of mortgage brokers that just post numbers on number of actives, number of sales, number of volume.
right,
And the numbers themselves have absolutely no meaning. And the consumer who typically doesn't buy or sell a home, let's just say for 10 years, the depends on where you've
yeah,
been and such, but let's just say 10 years. The consumer is not in the know, so they don't have the knowledge to look at the numbers and come to some sort of, I don't know, outcome.
right,
So when we look at the numbers, it's up to the real estate agent, it's up to the mortgage broker to use those numbers to define what it is that they're trying to say.
hmm,
And you know this, and I know this. Depending on what your point of view is, depending on what your narrative, depending on what you're doing, numbers are neither good or bad. They're just the numbers.
right.
It's the what you put onto them. But I did pull up your area, and that is number I think 2. Nope, that's it. Nope, that's not it. There we go.
Heyo.
So we're pulling up your area. So here's Austin for sales inventory growth, 25.6% year over year. So that's a lot. Remember the
For
spike in
inventory.
yeah for inventory. So you went from wow, I don't understand this. So it's going 2022, you went down in
Wow.
2023, but then
From 22 to 23.
it dropped. And like you guys just went through like a sales crush probably. And you know that's true. You did. And then now it's now it's going up.
It's surprising that there was that much inventory,
It's
or it
10,000
came
more.
down that much from 22 to 23.
Oh,
Because
this is really what we want to look at. This is the percentage for sale inventory is the, as far as the
okay,
number of units. So
yeah, there you go. Okay,
2020 is the pandemic. So March is when
Right.
everything kind of got shut down. So it drastically went down 21. But then
Right.
it threw that grappling hook onto SpaceX, and then the SpaceX rocket hit max Q, and they had to pull back the thrusters, and then they reignited the thrusters, and it's going back up into the outer atmosphere.
There you go.
As far as affordability, let's look at home values. Home values is starting to slip a little. Well, according to this, anything anything under a score below 50 indicates that future home values are more likely to decline, and you're at 34 for overall Austin.
Right.
And as far as growth, home value growth year over year, well, you went from a minus 13% to a minus 4, 5, almost 5%.
I think a lot. It seemed like there was a, well, I mean, I guess the general kind of like theme was everybody that came here from California during the pandemic decided they didn't like it as much as they thought they would, and then left or went back. Um,
I hear the same
so
thing about Florida. I hear the same thing about Idaho. And I was in Montana, and they said something similar. So I'm sure if I go to Oregon, it's going to be like
yeah.
Southern California. They left. And now I hear that people are coming back. And quite honestly, and I gave this some thought, and you and I were talking about it. You don't have any income tax from a state level
Right.
in California. So that's saving you anywhere between, I don't know, probably 12, 13, 14, 15%. And because I was thinking about that, because you still have to pay federal taxes. You still have that federal liability, which is the big chunk of things. And so when I look at that number, that is like the sunshine tax. That is the tax
Yep.
where that's what you pay for you never have any winter.
I mean, I mean, there's a reason they call it the sunshine tax. Right? It's a thing, and yeah, it's when if you've never lived in Southern California or in California, you don't. It's hard to appreciate that until you don't have it. You're like, you know what? There's something to that. Like, there's like, what's the price I'm willing to pay to be able to have like sit by the pool on in December, and yeah, on Christmas, and be pretty comfortable, and have that year round comfort. Because I mean, Texas is, I love Texas, but man, it can get oppressively hot in the summer. It gets surprisingly cold in the winter, like cold, for
Well,
California terms,
you're from
20,
Colorado.
30,
Does
20,
it
30 degrees.
colder than Colorado than Denver in the winter?
No, I mean, it's definitely not a call. It's a different cold, like they say. Just there's humidity, and it's just, Colorado's a good cold because you can like go outside and do stuff, and there's snow, and there's things to do. Where Texas,
They plan on that.
yeah, where Texas, when it gets cold, like, and like things freeze, stuff just shuts down. Like, everybody just stops doing anything. So it's like, yeah. So there's but yeah, I mean, that sunshine tax is real. I remember moving out here. I was like basically I would get a free house, like that, plus and plus a lot of some
Well, yeah,
extras.
yeah. I mean, well, let's just say 15% a year in what is that? 15, 30, 60. What, in 6, 5, 6, 7 years? That could.
I mean,
It's a
it,
compounding
yeah,
effect.
I mean, for most people
But
with
there's a trade-off.
some decent, yeah, right, yeah, you have, but I mean, don't get me wrong, there's tons of really great things about Texas, but nothing can compare to Southern California weather.
No, it
Period.
can't.
Like, there's just
No.
like Yeah.
Not much room to leave the country. So I'm sure
Right.
there's comparison if you want, not a real comparison if you want to stay in the United States, but if you want to leave outside the country, um,
And even then, there's not many climates that compare. I mean, you have like Italy,
most of Italy.
Croatia, right, like right around that general Mediterranean. But it's not. It's hard to come by for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears on that, one of the things that's really occupying my mind, and this might, couple things I'm going to share with you that one that I'm on tomorrow's day 75 that I've closed every single ring on my Apple Watch and I've done 6,000
Woo!
push-ups. So pretty stoked about that. I'm doing a self-imposed 100-day challenge. It was pretty hard to do it today though because I had insomnia last night. I didn't get to
Mm,
bed. I bet you I didn't fall asleep. The last time I looked at the clock, it was about 12:30. You know when you're tossing and turning and such. And my alarm goes off at 4:20. So I had to make a choice when I woke up if I was going to get more sleep and just turn off the alarm, or if I was going to
yeah.
get up and I was going to go do what I've committed to doing. And this kind of goes into the conversation you and I have had is that motivation means nothing. It's your discipline that's going to get you to where you want to go because I was not motivated in the morning after not being able to go to sleep. So what I'm on, I'm right now on
Yeah.
like 4 cups of coffee and 4 hours. I have 1 cup of coffee for every hour of sleep that I've got, and I'm gonna be tired by 10 o'clock.
So what's your normal bedtime then if
Normally,
12:30 was
normally I'm just crashing out like between 9 and 9:30.
really?
Like the kids are still small, and so they come and hang out with us in the bed when we're kind of dying down, which happens around eight
Yeah.
thirty. But come like 9:30, I'm like. But yesterday
I'm
was phenomenal.
yeah, I 12 to 1's my normal bedtime. That's just how I operate, and then I'm up 5 or 6. I don't sleep a lot.
Well, 12 to 1, 5 or 6. That gives you. Oh, that only gives you 4 or 5 hours. You got
I
6 hours.
usually usually about 6 hours is my kind of
That's what my
um
goal is. My goal is to get 6 hours,
yeah.
and
That's usually
my
my
watch tracks everything.
yeah. So I mean, there's definitely days where 6:30 is usually the upper end normally, but yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I cannot sleep 8 hours. I don't know. It's
Oh, I
just
can't
not. I'm
either.
just not built that way, and I'm grateful that I can operate. That my kind of like almost peak performance is around 6 hours because that's you know just an added benefit for me, I guess.
Let me show you something that I came up with, um, and then I'll transition into the other thing I want to talk to you about. Well, I'll just let you know right now. On September 22nd, on the 22nd,
Yes.
we have 100 days left of the year. 100 days
Ooh.
left of the calendar year. Now, I bring that up because that's not 100% accurate. You don't have 100 days because if you've heard me say, we talk about the
Right.
first season, which is essentially the holiday season that starts the week of Thanksgiving and it doesn't end in Southern California until the week after New Year. So that following, that like the second week of January,
Yep.
where people, they check out. They check out. I check out. You check out. It's just like people don't typically work a whole lot between that week of Thanksgiving to, or excuse me, Christmas to New Year's, and not a whole lot goes on between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I love what you said, and I will forever remember the fifth quarter.
Fifth quarter, the fifth season, yeah.
The fifth quarter, Q5. What are you gonna do between Thanksgiving and the week after January, like, or and now after New Year's, like that's Q5, and that's like, man, there's so much momentum can be gained or lost, and it's not. I mean, it's hard to hard to maintain momentum like as much as you want to.
Yeah.
Like, there's just stuff. There's just stuff. You know, if you have kids, you're out of. There's a lot of downtime there, which is always, throws a bunch of extra hats in the fire.
Yeah. And let's be honest, you're not finding now business. Well, you might find that time for lead generation, prospecting, and marketing. Um, what you're doing essentially come. Okay, so the first month of the fourth quarter is October. So from October to that week before the week of Thanksgiving, the second, let's call it the second third week of November.
Hmm.
That's really your time. That if you're going to be able to get anything in and closed this year, that's your window.
Right.
Anytime after, once we go into that fifth season, once we go into that fifth quarter, then now what you're doing is teeing up next year. Because once people, unless you're dealing with death, divorce, and default, because we've already talked about diamonds and diapers, those really aren't have to move or have to sell.
Yeah.
Death, divorce, and default definitely is. Everything else is getting teed up for next year because you're going to get that. And I don't even call it an objection. People say that I'm going to wait until after the holidays. That's not an objection. That's a condition.
Right. That's just
So
logistics for a lot of people. They're like, I don't want to be.
don't be that salesperson that tries to convince someone
Right.
otherwise.
Well, but don't you want to have Christmas morning in your brand new house?
Yeah,
Like, well,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that wouldn't be bad, but like,
I got family coming over. I got the dogs out.
yeah,
The kids are out of
right.
school. Like, no, no. Let me show you what I came up with. Going back into kind of the time that we sleep. So that's the wrong button. That's the right one. So I came up with this, and this is just part of the things that I'm working on. And when I talk with people about identifying their goals, and we start talking about their vision, their vision statement or their vision board, I said there are four main categories that you have to hit. You have to have family, finance, fitness, and fortitude. Family, of course, being your family goals, what you want to see,
Hmm.
what's your vision for you and your family. Finance is also is your business and your financial pile of money. What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Yeah, that would kind of go into it. And then we go into fitness. I think that's self-explanatory. As we get closer and closer to the end of the year, that becomes a bigger deal. But then we have fortitude. And fortitude, number one, I had to come up with fortitude because I had to start with an F. Otherwise,
Yes.
it would be mindset or mind. Um, some people say spiritual, but I just call it fortitude because it encompasses the mental and emotional strength of a person. So those are the areas. But then the next thing is if you have 8 hours of sleep, you have 16 hours in the day. And in a perfect world, maybe this wouldn't be someone's perfect world. You would be able to, this is what it would be like equally balanced at 16 hours a day. But most of the time, it's not equally balanced. Most of the time, what you do is you probably put more time into business and finance, but look where and you could go maybe more into mind, you can go more into fitness, but typically it's the family time that gets hammered. That's if you have an
Ooh.
8 hour day. So the question is, how do you become more efficient with an 8 hour day? You don't. You only have 16 hours. You got to choose how you want to spend it. If you want to spend more of it over here, then look, you're going to have to give up some fitness, you're going to have to give up some
Right.
fortitude, you're going to have to do something. But the other option is that darker ring in the center is 16 hours. The outer ring is 18 hours. So what in a sense you can do is you can expand your sleep like you and I. We get 6 hours of sleep, but now that extra 2 hours, if you draw that over to most of that to your family, you're keeping the same level of business and finance. But what you've done is you've added some time onto fitness. You've added more time onto family. You've added more time for self time, fortitude. So this, my friend, came from what I'm calling my ruck meditation. And that is, I'm literally outside, probably by 4:30, 4:45 in the morning. It's completely
Mm-hmm.
dark. There's no road. There's nothing. I have a nature walking trail right down there, just, I don't know, maybe a mile
Yeah.
from my house. And I don't put in iPads, or excuse me, um, I don't put in any earbuds or anything, and I'm thinking, I'm meditating. I call it the rec
Yeah.
meditation. So the way that you become more effective by not sacrificing what you need to do for your day-to-day life, because it's your business, it's your financial life that drives. It's not everything, but Jim Rohn said money isn't everything, but no, Zig Ziglar said that money isn't everything, but it rates right up there with oxygen. So, but the way that you do it, and you do it and I do it, is you just have to expand your effective time. That's it. And you have to utilize that time within. It's not just expanding your time and watching Netflix. It's
Yeah.
utilizing that time efficiently, because you could probably use that 16 hours. I bet you most people, if they just mark down every 15 minutes on what they're doing, I bet there's a lot of wasted time
Yeah. There's a big difference between being busy and being effective.
there. Yeah. So what do you think about my ruck meditation outcome?
I'm a big fan of the ruck meditation. I raw dog my mental space as well. I'm not a air AirPods music, you know,
Yeah.
book on tape type of a person. So I definitely appreciate that mental space to kind of sort thoughts out, and it's just I yeah, I'm a big believer of that. I make time, your fortitude. It might be, combine that with like a faith. So I mean, I do like a prayer and like meditation
Yeah.
type thing as a part of my fortitude as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So for me, the next book that I'm going to take, I read mostly self-help books,
Hmm.
mostly like Think You and these technical books on marketing and lead gen and such. But I also like
Yeah.
reading biographies. I like reading biographies of very successful people. The one that is really being that just came out is by an author by the name of Walter Isaacson, and he wrote a book on Steve Jobs,
Okay.
and he also has done one on Elon Musk. And
Cool.
I haven't read either one of those. I've read his work, but those are going to be the next one. I feel that if you want to excel in life, it's foolish not to read biographies of really successful people,
Yeah.
because otherwise, you might get one or two things from a business philosophy from reading a book that might take you a decade to learn just by trial and error. And
Yeah.
that's how I did. That's how I learned my real estate. That's how I learned real estate, is by trial and error. I was young enough to be able to do that, but if I got into real estate in my 40s, like the average person does, there's no way I had a decade of
Right. Well,
yeah.
you've learned a few lessons now, hopefully by in your 40s, to be able to like know better, to learn from other people's experience. Um,
Yeah.
it's amazing how much information is condensed person's entire life down into a book, and how much value that you can derive from that.
My
Yeah.
favorite thing that I watch on TV, I think it was on the History Channel, and it was the men making America, the men who were
Mm,
immigrants, and it's about the Rothschilds, and it's about
yeah.
the the origins
Right.
of our industrial age. So
Yes.
I think that's pretty amazing. So I know that you have a top of the hour, so we're 2 minutes too. So I don't want to go too long. I think for next week, I'm traveling to Florida next week. I'll be back here in California on our Friday thing. If something comes up,
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Cool.
Other than that,
Beautiful.
any parting words?
Let's get it.
Do it. All right, brother. See you
Whoop
next week.
whoop. Rock and roll.